What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today we are going to be discussing the fact that I believe in Season of the Seraph, Bungie added the new best Stasis Primary Weapon in the entire game. If you have access to Stasis and you like running Stasis builds, you absolutely want to get your hands on this, and so let's get started. Now, funny enough, I actually think Bungie added the second best and the best Stasis primaries both in this season to Destiny 2, and the second best is actually what you're seeing background gameplay of because it's the one that has gotten the most attention. It's the Liminal Vigil sidearm that comes from the Spire of the Watcher dungeon, and the reason this has gotten so much attention is because the roll is quite literally unlike anything we've ever seen before. Firstly, it can get headstone in the left column. That is extremely rare. In fact, I think this is the only gun in the game that can do that. And obviously, if you're making stasis crystals, very synergistic with a stasis build. The perk on the right-hand column is Desperado. We have never seen this on anything other than a very small amount of pulse rifles. So finding it here in combination with a very good stasis perk in Headseeker, and again for the first time ever on a sidearm, a lot of people have been looking for this roll, getting this roll, and using this roll, and I do think this is a phenomenal stasis weapon, and potentially with certain stasis builds, especially I'm thinking Titan, which really wants you to create and bust stasis crystals, the Liminal Vigil might be the top choice for a legendary stasis primary. However, it does have some problems. The main one is that it all relies on you getting that first initial precision kill to not only trigger a Headseeker but also Desperado. Against certain enemies in certain situations, that's not always the easiest thing to do. And so when you're using the weapon at a base level when Desperado is not active, it's pretty average. Like, aggressive bursts are not bad, but they're certainly not top tier. And that's really where what I think the best stasis weapon comes into play, and that is the Prolonged Engagement. This is a brand new Vanguard weapon, so it's actually going to be dropping from strike playlists, as well as I believe just leveling up your Vanguard reputation, all of that stuff. You can get this gun. And this is insane because this is actually, again, similar to the Liminal Vigil, some first evers happening within the game. This is the first ever 900 rounds per minute lightweight frame stasis SMG. And you know, if you're a Destiny player, you know lightweight frame SMGs are the meta when it comes to PvE activities. They simply put out so much damage. The base intrinsic property of being able to increase your movement speed is quite useful, and there's countless examples of other extremely meta weapons that land in this SMG archetype. I mean, the Callus mini tool defined Season of the Haunted in terms of the PvE meta. Another example, the Funnel Web, still one of the most sought after world drop weapons in the entire game, and again, an absolutely defining force in the meta when it first came out during the Witch Queen. So the fact that quite literally the top weapon archetype within the PvE meta is finally spawning in stasis, it's a huge deal. I mean, if you run something like Elemental Armaments as a mod, which is going to drop stasis elemental wells from weapon kills, you know having a weapon, having a primary that can consistently get kills is so important, and nothing's gonna slay out in PvE like a lightweight frame SMG. Now, the last piece of the puzzle, guys, is what about the perk pool of the Prolonged Engagement? The archetype is phenomenal, but you also need to have good perks. So the role I have in the background gameplay is pretty darn good. I've got Extended Mag, I've got Feeding Frenzy for better reloads, and then I have Surrounded, which was actually recently buffed. It should now be getting the effects of the Surrounded mod rolled into this perk. So it's just going to trigger off a wider radius. That's something that you should definitely consider. But then we have two extremely relevant origin traits. The first one is the Vanguard origin trait, which is actually going to heal you for a little bit of health every single time you get a kill. And the second one, guys, I mean, this is partially why I'm freaking out over this gun. It's Viced Stinger. Viced Stinger is by far, and honestly it's not even close, the best origin trait for a foundry in the entire game. Just reloading your entire magazine as you get hits on enemies. It has completely defined the PvE meta in terms of DPS output, especially stuff like the Taipan, stuff like the Reed's Regret wouldn't be nearly as good without Heist Stinger. And the funnel web, again, a lot of the reason why it was so good is because of Heist Stinger. The fact that you can get it here is just fantastic. But this is just the tip of the iceberg when we're talking about good rolls for this gun. Get it? Tip of the iceberg stasis. Anyways, guys, looking at the perk spawns here, you have the normal assortment of barrels. Go with whatever you want, but maybe stick away from full bore for PvE. Then in the next column, you really want either a magazine extending perk or a reload speed increasing perk for PvE. For PvP, you want stats, obviously. Then in the next column, things get good. Subsistence, fantastic. I mean, the funnel web shows that. Feeding Frenzy for those reload speed increases, also phenomenal. We actually have a lot of really good PvP perks, Dynamic, Killing Wind, Eye of the Storm, etc. And that is pretty much it for really notable and desirable perks in the first column. There's a lot of them because it is a Vanguard weapon. In the second column, you could go with Headstone. If you really want a dedicated Stasis Primary, Headstone's going to be fantastic. Again, very synergistic, but Frenzy is phenomenal. Just really easy to trigger, get that reload speed increase and the increase in damage. Multi-kill clip can be quite good. Again, Surrounded is pretty darn good. Pugilist here for melee increases. In fact, you can combo that with Grave Robber if you want a dedicated melee weapon. You have One for All, really, again, easy to trigger damage increase. Thresh for more supers, even something like Adagio for a good damage increase. And honestly, guys, the new one, Target Lock, where damage increases the longer this weapon remains on a target. It triggers pretty fast and it ramps pretty high. But overall, again, there's just a lot of good options. What I'm going for personally as a PvE God roll is going to be Subsistence in that first slot. I love this thing, and I'm going to combine that with either Frenzy or One for All for just very easy to trigger consistent damage increases that can be used up to higher level content. Both of them don't actually require kills, so if you're in something like a Grandmaster where it takes the entire magazine to shoot a guy even remotely far away, it doesn't matter. You can spray down enemies and get that damage increase to trigger without requiring the kill, so you can actually use the damage increase to get the kill. And honestly, although the healing from Vanguard's Vindication would be good, I think you gotta go with Heist Stinger, just massively increasing that magazine size because of the, technically infinite reloads if you're lucky. Yeah, that's the play. And so guys, there you have it. Once you get a God roll of this thing, you absolutely want to go back and try it out in your existing stasis builds. Like, it's basically like trying out the Callus mini tool once you got the God roll in your solar builds. It can make a big difference. Guys, that is it for the video. Hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.